Hi, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to 1111 Overland. Going on my first multi-day overland trip solo taught me a lot. I had a lot of fun and I got to do a lot of really cool things and see a lot of cool places. I hope you enjoyed the video series I created for that. And if you haven't watched it, check out the link in the description. It'll have links to all 10 episodes. There's a few things I learned, however, as I was going out, and a few things I probably would have done differently that you don't get to learn when you are just going out for a night at a time, or just going out with the guys and then staying in a regular campsite and have access to grocery stores and hardware stores and things like that. To become truly self-sufficient, there's a few things that I personally have learned that I need to change about my overland setup, or that I feel like I want to pass on to you. And so I thought I'd make a little video about it. Download your maps. You never know when you're going to actually have reliable, high-speed download service through whatever cellular provider you happen to have. Now, if you're lucky enough to have like Starlink or some other mobile internet platform, that's great, but it's always easier and better if you can download the maps directly to the device you're going to use for navigation. Whether you're using All Trails or OnX Off-Road or Overland Bound or Gaia GPS, having those maps downloaded onto your device gives you a chance to say, hey, I need to know my exact location, where I'm going, what it's going to look like around here. Are there trails up ahead? Are there campsites up ahead? Be able to see it really, really easily. Now that might seem like a common one that a lot of people say, but I found myself multiple times not really sure where I was going and not having a decent cell signal. So I just had to backtrack the road enough to be able to get a signal so I could let the maps download. That's one that I would really recommend. Some of these services also require you to have a paid subscription or an upgraded subscription. And if you don't have that to allow you to download it, you can always go to Google Maps and download the area there. It won't have as much detail on the off-road as say an OnX Off-Road or a Gaia GPS will, but it will have a decent amount of information to at least get you out of a pickle if you need it. Now here's one that really actually surprised me. Packing an extra glass screen protector for whatever device you're using, whether it's an iPad mini or my iPhone, having an extra glass screen protector tucked away so that if you drop your device, you've got a way to protect it is really nice. I was out in California and the wind knocked over my phone, broke the glass screen protector on it, and luckily it was just the glass cover. I was able to pull that off and discard it, but I didn't have a new one to put on, which meant that if it happened again, I would risk actually damaging my actual phone. These glass screen protectors are very affordable. I picked them up on Amazon for usually around $7 to $8 for a multi-pack of 2 or 3, and they're a great thing to keep in your box, in your Jeep, or whatever vehicle you're driving, just in case you end up damaging the one that you're using. You won't have to worry about going without one for the remainder of your trip. Your gadgets are useless unless you actually use them. I have spent a lot of time, like many of you, on the internet looking at all the cool things you can get. There are lots of fun things, and there are lots of companies who want to sell you fun things. And as awesome as they are to get in the mail and to open up and play with and look at, unless you're out using them, what's the point? So I found great ways to organize my gear, but I also, when I use my gear, when I go out and actually use it, I find myself knowing what needs to stay in my kit and what just needs to be gone. And it's making me more selective about the things I bring and the things that I buy. I'll give you some examples. This little egg container, fantastic for carrying eggs, keeps it really safe in a cooler or in a refrigerator if you've got one. It's fantastic. But if you don't eat eggs when you're out camping, then you don't need one. It's fantastic, but right now it's been collecting a lot of dust. So I'm now setting a goal to make a meal with eggs, so I actually have a reason to use this. Here's another example. Really cool, small, portable, inflatable pad. I've got a really great rooftop tent and a really good pad inside my Jeep when I sleep inside my Jeep. It's very compact, great for backpacking, which I'm not doing a lot of. If I'm going to use it, great. You know, maybe I put it in here, maybe I put it with my kit, with my hammock, if I ever want a hammock camp, things like that. But it becomes one of those things where it's like, is it just adding weight and expense that could be used on something else? So look through your kit, find out what you need, what you don't need. And the best way to know if you need it or not is to go use it. Go try it out on a weekend. Go out for, 2 days, in your area. Go find a place to camp. Go drive until you find some public land and camp out on it and use your gear. Use it. And you'll find through that regular usage what stuff's important to you and what stuff was simply a great advertisement. Have a designated place for trash. Your vehicle's going to get really yucky over the course of a multi-day trip, and having a place for trash where you always put it in that trash and then empty it out whenever you get to a gas station or a trash receptacle will help really keep things clean. I like this little behind the seat trash organizer. It fits any size standard grocery bag that you can easily pull this out and throw it away, and it's got pockets on the side so that I can easily store extra bags. And every time I stop at a gas station, I'll either pull the things out if they're dry and throw them in the trash, or if needed, I can pull the whole bag out and replace it. In some ways, I'm really good at organization. I've got little pouches for things like, hey, this is my cleaning pouch where I put my soap and my scrub brush and my towel when it's not drying. So I use it to wash dishes. This little box right here is kind of my kitchen box, and it's really nicely organized. Step 22 does a really good job with these awesome flat boxes, and I've got my jet boil and my mug and extra fuel, my cups, my spoons. This is my hot chocolate and spiced cider. It's all nice and organized. And I put magnets on the bottom of it so it stays in the exact same place in my Jeep, stored every single time. So there's some really, really great things about my organization. But there's also a lot of chaos too. When you look at the way this back is organized or not organized, because this Jeep is my daily driver, I don't have a place for my chair and for that milk crate with some random camping supplies and for my top of my tent when I'm not using it. I mean, it just becomes this big disheveled mess that just looks crazy. And that craziness gets even worse when I start going off-road because stuff starts shifting, it starts bouncing all around, it starts popping up and going down, and unless it's all secured and in its perfect place and exactly where it needs to be, sometimes things get damaged. Bread gets smashed, things get dirty, and sometimes things just get lost, and you just don't know where to find them. Now, I sometimes like to think, well, I'm gonna have plenty of time at camp. I'll just throw it all in the back, and then by the time I find my cool camping spot, I'll be twiddling my thumbs. I'm gonna set my tent up and wonder, what am I gonna do next? Oh, I know, I'll organize all my stuff. But it almost never happens that way. So my advice to you is organize it before you go. Have a place for everything, put it in that place, secure it in a way that it won't get damaged if you go off-road, and then when you're ready for it, you'll be able to access it right when you need to. This one's gonna have to be a do as I say, not as I do type one. Get a fridge. This cooler is ice hungry. I have had to fill it twice now. I'm fairly certain some of the food is not as fresh as it could have been or should have been because of the fact that I haven't been able to keep it cold. And let's be honest, trying to find something in this mess without disturbing something and being able to easily get back to it is a nightmare. I want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, I got to get to my jelly. I guarantee I pull that jelly out, I'm not getting it back in, not easily. I want to make a sandwich and have some pickles on it. Well, that's down at the very bottom. And when I pull that out, all the ice is going to cave in the bottom, and now it's got rattling all around and things like that. So it's tricky. It's really tricky. Getting a fridge will make your overlanding, long-term overlanding, so much easier. I think. I actually don't know because I don't have one. Would anyone like to give me a fridge? I'll take it. Dometic, if you're listening, ARB, random Amazon company that sells cheap fridges, I'll take it. Better than this cooler I bought at Walmart for sure. I need a fridge. Another thing for a long-term overlanding trip is to keep your flashlights handy. Here I am climbing up. It's starting to get a little dark in my tent. I'm gonna need to be able to see something. Oh wait, I don't have my flashlight. Where is that? Oh, I gotta go back down and go grab it. You know, do I have a headlamp up here? Do I have a flashlight in my pocket? I've got flashlights all over the place, but right now I don't have one up here. So keeping your flashlights handy where you can access them quickly and easily will make it so that when you need one, you don't have to be going up and down and back and forth trying to find the one you need and trying to illuminate your path. I keep a flashlight right up here. I've got a flashlight right here in my center console. I've got a really high-powered flashlight right here in my roam box. I've got a flashlight on my watch. I keep headlamps and extra batteries in my roam box. And of course, that doesn't count all the lights that are built into my Jeep. Lights built into my handles. Light built into my tailgate. And my side holster LEDs. Lights everywhere make it easy to see, but if you don't have one handy, you gotta go find it. Fill up whenever you can. This applies to gasoline mostly, but not just gasoline, water too. You'd be surprised at how many times you are almost running out of something and you realize, oh man, I should have filled up my water. Oh, I should have filled up my, whatever it is that you gotta fill. If there are things that need refilling, like water, like gas, fill up when you can, because you never know when you'll suddenly forget or find yourself somewhere else. And sometimes somewhere else can mean a place that doesn't have water. I'm assuming that this works. It does. But what if I was depending on this faucet working in order to fill up, and I didn't fill up 2 stops ago? Suddenly now I might find myself out of water. And that's even worse if it's fuel. So that's why I've learned to fill up when I can. Even if it's not convenient, even if I got other things to do, if I've got a chance to fill up the gas tank or my water tank, I do it. And here's a great example of that. I'm in beautiful Julian, California. It's a beautiful small town, and I'm happy to do business here. I'm happy to help support small towns like this, but look at the gas prices. $5.19. I'm gonna get mid-grade, which is $5.59 a gallon. Luckily, I don't need to get very much, but you know, if you were forced to get gas like this, it can be expensive. Now, the sad part is, as I was driving here to Julian, there was a spot where I could have gotten gas for $4.29. So a full $1 less per gallon. So by filling up frequently, you can choose when you get gas instead of being forced to get gas because you've got no other option. Well, I hope you found my tips useful, but I'm still relatively new at long-term solo overlanding. And so I thought I'd reach out to a couple close friends who know a little bit better about how to do this than I do. And they've got a couple tips that I think you'll really love. First, let's hear from Will from Venture2Roam. Will, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Jeremy. I am stoked to be part of this collaboration with you. For those of you who haven't met me on this channel, we tell overlanding stories from the American Northwest, we create value-added informational videos, and even the occasional collaboration and creative project. But today, I'm talking to you about the lessons learned during longer trips. So here's the big one for me: dust management. Now, I know this might sound silly, but when you're driving in a group and you're not in the front, you're generally eating the dust or even mud from everyone in front of you for very long stretches of time. Now, for shorter trips, you can be like, meh, I can deal with this for a few days. But for longer trips, this stuff gets into every crevice of your rig and can make it like hard to have fun sometimes. You know, I've even seen videos where people stop the trip early. One of the reasons being they were tired of the dust. So here are a few tips to help you deal with the dust and dirt buildup on the trail. One of the things we do sometimes when the dust is bad is just space out the convoy. So that's an easy one. But sometimes the dust is bad and there's nothing you can do about it. So what I recommend doing is not using your washer fluid. I know that sounds weird, but there are two reasons for this. One, your windshield will get wet and instantly attract more dust and it will stick. And two, you will run out of washer fluid when you really need it. You'll be stuck. So instead, give them a dry wipe. Yep, dry wipe those bad boys. It will clean off the top layer of dust, increase your visibility, and save your washer fluid for when you really need it. Now, when you're overlanding, your rig is also your bed and your kitchen and office and generally your living quarters. So when it gets full of dust, you are full of dust. When this happens to me, what I like to do is take a few wet wipes and just wipe the interior of my rig down. Now, this seems like a really simple thing, but you would be amazed at how much better you feel when you're not breathing dust inside your rig when you're driving and then it's all over everything else. So the seats, the dash, all the places in your rig, just a wet wipe can really, really help with that. Okay, last tip, use a horsehair brush, not a regular brush, a horsehair brush. We use one I got on Amazon for like 15 bucks and I just keep in my trasharoo. When we hit camp, before I open up the back of my rig, I use this thing to just brush off the dust all over the back of my Jeep. And usually there's someone else at camp who sees what I'm doing and asks to use my brush because it is so nice not to open up the back of your rig and have like the Niagara Falls of dust coming down into everything and all over you because you kind of live there, you eat there, you cook there, all that stuff is happening. So if you can get that dust off before you open up your rig, it really, really helps. Oh, and if possible, just drive at the front of the line. There's way less dust up there. Thanks again to Jeremy. What a great topic to be included on. Take care, everyone. Safe travels.
Will, thanks so much for taking the time to put that video together. I totally agree that dust management can be a real challenge if you're not ready for it. And that horsehair brush, I've got to get one of those. That seems like a really great way to clean off the exterior. I've always used my air compressor to blow off dust, but that seems to create a big floating dust storm too. So having a horsehair brush on hand seems like a really great way to do it. One thing I do for the inside of my tent is I keep a small broom and I'll sweep out the inside after a camping trip, so I'm not putting away a tent being super dusty. So that's another little tip for you if you're looking for dust management. The other challenge I've found is on this trip that we're in southern Utah right now, we had to deal with a bunch of mud and I wasn't always ready for that. I'm not used to going in a lot of mud. We had a lot of rain lately and a lot of snow, and as we were driving around in the mud, it got all over the Jeeps. Trying to touch the handles, just having some wipes handy where you can wipe off the handles of your Jeep so you're not taking mud from your hands into your vehicle. Or having a nice tray or mat to put at the bottom of your rooftop tent to leave your shoes on so that you don't track mud up the rungs of your stairs. I would love to hear in the comments from you guys how you manage dust and mud and what works well for you. Please let us know. And Will, again, thank you so much for taking the time to put that segment together. Next, I want you to hear from Andrew. Andrew has actually been overlanding for a very long time, and he's built an amazing Gladiator. He's got a very interesting take on the Overland Fridge and why you need to pack the way you do, and I really love his setup. So I'm with Andrew Newman. Andrew, you're with NeuAdventures, and you've got, from a long-term overlanding standpoint, you've got a fridge solution that's pretty impressive, and is in the back of your 2020 Gladiator, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so tell us about your fridge and show us how it works.
All right, so I've got a Dometic 75 quart, so it's a beast.
Yeah, it's big.
And then I've got it on an easy slide pull out. So I've got a quick little latch here, unlocks it, lock, slides it on out. My favorite feature about this, be able to drop it down so I can easily access everything inside of this. One of the reasons I love the fridge is the big size, the dual zone. Most of the time I've got one side set as the fridge and the other side set as the freezer, so I can have just
ice cream, cold drinks,
slushies for the kids, popsicles in the summer. Makes it great. If we're doing longer trips, some steaks.
What more would you put in a freezer besides ice cream?
So we did a week-long trip, and it was really nice to put in some steaks or some other meat that we wanted to keep frozen, keep it long-term. and then the night before, take it out, put it in the fridge, that way it's ready to go. We are planning an Alaska trip in a couple years, so it's going to be perfect for that. On the downside, for like weekend getaways for like 2 or 3 days, it's a beast. It is too much fridge.
Nice. Well, thank you again. That's a really helpful tip. If you're thinking about long-term overlanding, one thing to really consider is the size of your fridge and whether you need a dual zone so you can keep meat and ice cream and other things frozen while you're out on those multi-day trips where you might not have access to a grocery store or other place. You probably recognize Andrew's Gladiator from some of the videos we've done in the past. He's been a great friend and a great overlander. He's taught me a lot, and it's been a lot of fun spending time with him out on the trail. Thanks again for watching. Again, I'm Jeremy with 1111 Overland. We'll see you out there. This has been and continues to be 1111 Overland.